What really goes on when somebody checks off, yes, I have a disability?
My bosses would look at them and be like,
I've left every job I've ever had because of my...
you didn't have a kid, you didn't have the things that you needed.
Do you think they would have hired me?
For that position, I would have to say...
Have you ever filled out a job application and wondered, should I be honest here? Or maybe your job is getting harder because of something you're going through and you're just not sure what to do? Today, I'm talking to my favorite human resources pro of all time. We're going to get to the bottom of the questions we all want to know. If you have a disability, what should you do?
That was a little bit of an introduction there, but thanks. I appreciate it. Oh my God.
Welcome back to No Limits After Hours. If you're new here, my name is Corey. Tell me your name.
Hola, everyone.
How long were you in human resources for?
A little over 10 years. I was in various parts of HR, not always the hiring and firing.
Me and you never really had a conversation about how to handle this situation, how employers handle this situation.
So true.
What I should do, in these moments. And
yeah,
obviously I'm past that now, but hopefully we can help somebody who's going through, this scenario, make a better decision. So.
And that's so crazy now that you say that. We never talked about it. That's crazy.
Yeah, we never did. So, I'm excited about this conversation.
Me too.
We are a married expat couple. We got 2 kids. We're parents and navigating life with my vision loss, with my disability. So.
Yeah. I think that sums it up pretty much.
Real quick, guys, if you like content like this, please hit subscribe, like the video, drop a comment, man. Let me know. So I want to grow this family. I want to reach more people that can relate to it. Let's start these questions, man.
First of all, before we get started, we should probably address if you hear chickens in the background right now.
Oh yeah,
I feel like I can hear a lot of birds too. It seems like we're in the Amazon right now.
It definitely feels like we're in the Amazon. We definitely have Stu, our neighbor's chicken, making a lot of noise right now, and there's a lot of chirping going on. We were going to do this outside, but it would have been louder, so we figured, we just use our living room today.
Yeah, we changed it up a little bit today.
Shout out to the kids going back to school too. These kids were off for 10, 11 days, y'all. And we were going nuts. We love them.
We were trying to do this video a week ago. But
oh my gosh.
We're like, maybe when they're taking a nap. No.
I did not.
They only nap one day out of 10 days.
Yeah, it's these.
So funny.
Yeah, it's hard to record, but we had some good times, man. So I'm not playing no games, y'all. What really goes on when a recruiter or an employer sees a job application and somebody checks off, yes, I have a disability? Do we actually have a fair shot at this job?
Oh my God. I'll speak from some of my experience in that area of HR, but I'm going to tell you this. Personally, when I was in that area of HR, where I handle that specifically, along with other HR teammates, of course. I wasn't doing it by myself. But
don't take it easy on us. We want to know the truth. So
personally, I never experienced it myself.
Okay.
I never myself saw an application where someone checked off that they had a disability. Okay.
We got to stop hiding it. That's why. It's because we be hiding it, but keep going.
I agree. Because you're not sure if that's going to hurt you, and that's what I think a lot of people think. But the question itself, do you have a real shot if you check that off? I think it depends whose hands it lands in.
Okay. Tell me more.
Because personally, I think HR, especially if it's a smaller company, I would say, right? Mm-hmm. I think you're a little bit I saw this in some of my managers at smaller companies.
Okay.
Their insecurities about whether they were going to bring the right hire. Looking through resumes was a lot of times I would have to do the first round of resumes and look through them and stuff like that. Do you know how many times I saw potential in people based on their resumes or talking to them on LinkedIn? Mm-hmm. And then I'm I actually think this person's going to be great. My bosses would look at them and be like, no, by just one minor thing in their resume. Because think about it, HR helps out the rest of the team members,
they
right?
fill out the team.
So it's they're talking to other managers, other staff about people that they need for their teams most of the time, right?
Yeah.
And it's like trying to bring the right hire because it's a lot of pressure on HR sometimes. I feel like that alone sometimes just gets people in HR to like be so stringent on who they try to hire because they don't want to bring the wrong person in, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like small things, unfortunately, at smaller companies, it's like, no.
So you think smaller companies would like checking that disability box with a smaller company might have more of a negative impact than say a bigger company?
You know what? That's just my personal experience only because I could see people at the smaller companies struggling to make those decisions.
Yeah.
Like it had to be like this perfect person almost, you know, that they wanted, like this person that had, you know, of course everybody wants somebody with like amazing experience and this and that. And it's like, okay, great. But, you know, sometimes you got to bring people in and train them too. And I don't think people sometimes see that. Yeah. It just depends who it is that's in that HR position. You know what I'm saying? If it lands on the right person, let's say it lands on somebody's desk that is an HR professional that has someone that's disabled in their own family. Yeah. Maybe it's not vision, but maybe it's something else. I think sometimes that life experience is something that brings people to be open to it. Like, oh, okay, well, they check that they have this, but, or like, you know what? Let me give them an opportunity. They have great experience. I see that they've been at this companies before. They've been doing this. Let me see what that disability is that might, you know, how that might affect this position. Because that's maybe fair. It doesn't, right?
Yeah, that's fair. It makes me feel like, as much as I hate to feel like this, where, dang, checking that box is a hit. Because if you're saying smaller company versus bigger companies, it might have an impact. We know the truth. We know it. We know it does, right? Like, we know that by checking that box, it, you know, because you don't know what somebody else is thinking about you right off the bat. And if they're just looking at paperwork and they're like, oh, this person has disability, it's blindness, it's low vision, like the amount of judgment that happens on a day-to-day, let alone, hey, invest in me to work for your company, your team. Like, it sucks to think that, dang, it really does have a impact when we check that box. Because, we just want a fair shot. We just want to make money like everybody else and, live normally. So
in a larger company, there's just like more structure in place to hire people that, you know, perhaps have disabilities or things like that. Fair.
So speaking about larger companies, right? And shout out to Stu making as much noise as he possibly can right now.
Right in the middle.
Obviously, you know this, but we did a live during February, where I spoke about how I accidentally tricked the NBA at NBA All-Star, which was my job, because I somehow survived working at NBA All-Star despite being legally blind at the time and nobody knowing, right?
David Stern.
Hi, Corey. It's David Stern. Just thank the Sean group for those very nice ties. I appreciate it greatly. Talk to you soon.
Received August 9th.
Yeah.
So the NBA is obviously a super large company, a global brand, everything like that. Knowing what you know about my eyes, and I know the answer, but I want you to be honest. Do you think they would have hired me if I would have checked that box of, yo, I got a disability and it's my eyes?
Oh my God. For that specific role, I think if I was in HR and it was me hiring for that position, which, you know, at that age, that was like our first, that was your first job.
That was my first
I was
job.
in my first HR job at that time too. But, actually my second, because we were in Jersey. But for that position, I would have to say no, they wouldn't have hired you.
The real answer is hell no, they wouldn't. Hell no, they wouldn't have.
I don't think it would have been. I don't think it would have been because of your capabilities.
Nah.
Because if, let's say, you went in, did your interview, which obviously went well, did your presentation, which you had to do. Remember, you had to do a presentation.
I didn't have to do that. I did that on my own.
Oh, I thought they made you do a presentation. You did
Nah.
like a whole slideshow.
Yeah, I know. I did that completely independent.
I thought they told you to do like they
No.
put a scenario and you had to put something
No,
together.
I was the only person who did to do that.
OMG. Oh, I did not know that. Wow. All right. Well, good for you. That's why you got it.
Yeah.
But let me tell you something. I do think that for that specific role, if somebody put that they were blind or had vision issues or like anything related to their vision or something, I would not have hired that person because that position specifically required traveling, required being at arenas,
I'll be at the games,
events,
in the dark.
In the dark, because it was more than games because it was events
different
too.
events.
Because then your clients would say, "Oh, Corey, please come to this event,
this dinner or this
dinner.
party, this and that." I'm in the dark. It's crowded places. All these things that made me super uncomfortable.
Yikes!
I'm doing it pretty regularly.
It's your job.
It's my job.
It's what's expected of you.
Yeah.
You know, that's what the expectation was, which, by the way, how cool of an opportunity, right?
Literally, I can't even talk about how amazing and how happy I am that I was able to get that opportunity. Like, shoot, I'm fresh out of college working for the NBA, and I think like in so many ways that was such a dream job. I'm so happy I got there before I had to stop. You know what I'm saying? Like working in the office.
Yeah,
so
that is good.
I'm definitely grateful for that. But just thinking about it, like if I'm being honest, like of course, fortunately, and I worked hard to, with internships and stuff like that, to be in a position where like, hey, I could be capable for this role, at least on paper.
Yeah.
But the reality is, it was dangerous for me. Like doing what I was doing was definitely dangerous, and I was not in the mindset to admit that. Even though in my head I knew it, because I'm like, man, I gotta do this. I'm like terrified to do certain things or go certain places, but it's just battling my own self. Like I could do this. I'll be okay. That got me through. But the reality is, like, I shouldn't have even.
Yeah, sometimes it's so outside of HR because it depends who the hiring manager is.
Yeah.
They might be like, look, I want to see all the resumes. I'll pick out the person myself.
Fair. That's true.
There's managers like that.
That's fair.
But I think it depends, But for that specific role, I don't think anyone would have considered someone that was visually impaired to put them in a position where they might have been injured or hurt or this and this and that. Like we can go on and on, like
especially without a cane. It's not even like I was trying to adapt and prepare myself for these situations.
Yeah,
it was just like, hey, this is me. I'm struggling out here. If I had a cane, at least I don't know. At least it was a warning to others. At the very least, if I had it, you know what I mean, or like if it's in the dark, like I have something to help guide me. Like it was just kind of just me on my own trying to figure it out. So
I don't think companies would want to take that risk to put somebody in a situation where they might be, in an uncomfortable position.
A company wouldn't want me to be in an uncomfortable situation.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I didn't know what to do besides being in an uncomfortable situation. It was like, if I have a life to live and bills to pay, I have to put myself through this. It's crazy looking back at it because I can honestly say I've left every job I've ever had because of my eyes. And it's like, sure, NBA was a position where I left right before. So hear this out. I was supposed to go to Vegas and meet somebody in the middle of a party in a nightclub to bring them like tickets and like stuff as part of their like partnership. The thought of me flying to Vegas by myself and go to a nightclub in the dark to meet one person is like, how am I supposed to do that? With a crowded place, that's.
You wouldn't have FedEx those days, like.
It was about like you're dealing with clients, so
it's true. I know, I get it.
It was supposed to build relationships
funny.
And all that, but
no, that's what it is. Yeah.
Just that thought was like so scary to me. I was like, I gotta get out of here. But even thinking back to like one of my first jobs, right? Like I don't know. Do you remember when I used to work?
Don't tell me Sears.
I was gonna say Sears.
For like 2 days. I remember
that's
yelling. You and your mom were yelling at you in the kitchen. Like why you quit. I remember that vividly. That was high school.
That was high school. Shout out. I remember being in high school. Shout out to Trav, Bev, Lamari. I feel like Jimmy was
2
with
days.
us.
It was the weekend. I
Yo,
think.
we all went after school, applied for Sears. I got the job, and I worked there for 2 days. And I told my mom, I was like, Mom, Sears, this job is not for me. I'm not going back. And to be honest,
We were yelling at you in the kitchen.
yeah,
I think.
y'all were mad at me. But the truth is, and I don't know if we ever spoke about this actually, but the truth is, I was working behind the cashier.
You were?
Yeah, I was behind the cashier, and like I was having so much trouble.
Oh.
Somebody giving me a card, I'm missing their hand, hitting their hand. They're giving me cash, I'm missing it and stuff like that. And then it's like,
I see.
I quickly gotta go press buttons.
I don't think I ever even knew what you were
Well,
doing.
fair. We'll see.
I thought you were probably folding clothes or something.
Yeah, no, I wasn't doing that. And I kind of, if I was doing that, that would have probably been better for me. But I was behind the counter, so it was like I would get this, have to press buttons.
First of all, hold on a second.
This is the wrong job for me.
Hold on, you folding clothes? I don't even think that would have been
That's true.
either.
I wouldn't be able to
But
do that.
You know what?
That's-
Maybe you would have learned
that's
how to
fair.
properly do
I
it.
would have had to, but I think I would have felt more comfortable for sure. But that's why I didn't. I never told you that.
I didn't even know you were doing that.
Oh shoot! I don't even know if I told my mom that either.
She probably
then.
don't even know. Mom, you're about to find out.
Dang, but that's the truth on why I didn't want to go
But
back.
you know what's the thing? This is what at the root of all this is the fact that you yourself you didn't even know, like, I think one doctor told him once, you're legally blind.
Yeah, when
then
I
it
was
was
in-
just like,
when I was in
okay,
high school,
whatever,
yeah.
you like dismissed it. And,
Yeah, I
I
didn't care.
don't think,
I
but,
don't care about that.
I do think that that's something going back to that doctor, even though I've been to that doctor myself and I like the guy. But, the system's in place to be like, hey, look, your son is legally blind. He needs to take these steps. He should be getting cane training. He should be doing Braille. He should be doing this and this and that. Like, please take the time to properly do all these things. And it's like that education, if you would have been given all those tools, I think you would have been in such a different place because one, you would have accepted your condition and situation sooner.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I am
maybe.
blind. Yeah, because the truth is we started working and you didn't even accept yourself. You were blind.
I mean,
Even though you had such a hard time walking and doing things
yeah,
and
that's true.
you didn't have a cane, you didn't get any help, you were putting yourself at such risk in the city.
I just wonder though, because the doctor pretty much told me, he was like, okay, you have this problem. Stop playing football. Stop playing basketball. Like so you don't make the situation worse. But after that, it was like, okay, go ahead, live life. But
Yeah.
If he would have been like, yo, do this, do that, learn about this, connect with these people, maybe I would have accepted it. But at the same
go
time,
to these organizations.
I'm a teenager. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. Maybe I would have took it a little more serious. But he said that, I was like, I don't know what he talking about. I'm gonna go play basketball as soon as I leave here.
With my friends outside.
Yeah, like I'm going to play outside as soon as we leave. So
I mean, I don't know. But I do think that at the end of the day, a lot of it comes down to, you not having accepted your vision.
Yeah.
And all that.
Definitely some things I could have done different.
So, like, when did you realize that your vision might affect your career, actually? At what point, I guess?
So I think the first time I realized like my vision would affect like my life was definitely when basketball was getting harder for me, and that was like, I don't know, 8th, 9th grade, when I realized like, damn, I can't, I'm kind of struggling more than I felt like I should be. But also like, damn, I remember being in college and I'm walking home from night classes and I'm literally like, I can't see anything besides like the lights on, like the street lights or like the lights on the sidewalk, like,
Wow.
and
This
I'm
was
like,
college.
yeah, this is in college. And I'm thinking like, yo, if this is me relying on everybody else's eyes except for mine, like it definitely like shook me a little bit. Like, damn, what is the future gonna be like? But at the same time, it was like, man, I could never see at night. But I do think all these thoughts played a big role into like me just trying to run and go hard, like leading up to my career, because I'm like, I gotta outrun this challenge of mine. And shout out to you, because you definitely put the battery in my back. You were on my back, But doing internships in college and things like that, you know, you definitely were the engine to get me started with it. And once that happened, I felt like I kind of ran with it. But I think because of you and because of what I was going through, I definitely had a clear vision of like, this is what I got to do.
To me, it's just crazy when you mention going to night classes and that feeling, and you not being able to see something, not the things around you, but just the headlights on cars. That's so crazy to me, like, because
in New York City,
and you didn't. I don't want to, because it's crazy to me that you didn't have a cane, you didn't have the things that you needed for safety.
I didn't.
Until, literally,
I got my cane a year ago.
14 years. How many years later? Like 14 years later, we're in college. You know, like.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah,
I don't even know. Have I ever even told you that before? Like that feeling. I used to tell Blade. That's who knew this.
Yeah, I know.
Because I would talk to Blade. Because Blade would be in the same situation where, like, I feel like he was able to see a little more than me.
Yeah.
But I would tell Blade, like, yo, I'm walking down blocks of just being like,
dark.
All right, it's dark. Like, I could hear the cars when they start and stop. I could see the color of the light, and I know what it looks like when it's supposed to be my turn to walk. You know what I'm saying? But like, I'm relying on everybody else's eyes to keep me safe. And shout out to Harlem, because I never had no problem. I never had no problems. At least not there. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, man.
Thank goodness. Well, anyways, so I wanted to ask you. My question was, you didn't check that box.
Never, not once.
You got hired by the NBA as an example. Of course, we're just talking about the NBA in this example, but
okay.
Well, let's say any job, right?
Yeah,
you didn't check the box.
I never checked that thing one time.
How did you think that affected your relationships? And I don't know, relationship building at work.
Yeah.
How did it affect your day to day, not having said that you were legally blind or that you had a visual impairment at work?
Okay.
Let me know if that makes sense. That's a long question.
That's a really good question. Okay, so the first thing that comes to mind is like, when it comes to relationship building, I feel like when you're at work, there's like happy hours and things like that.
Oh yeah.
You know, kind of after work to talk and hang out.
Forgot about that.
For me, I would avoid that as much as possible, which obviously I think hurt, some of my relationships at work, especially.
That makes sense.
Especially for the people I wasn't around much, like say not like my immediate boss, because especially at the NBA, like Natasha, I love her.
We love her.
But like the guys above that or the people above that, because I wasn't like, oh, yo, after this, let's go here and like talking and laughing. I definitely think that hurt, potential relationships and probably my growth too, because it's not like, I would put myself out in those situations because I'm trying to avoid being in those situations, being in the dark or around crowded stuff. And because it's not like any of these places were like my backyard or my home where I felt comfortable, to go. It's completely unpredictable being in a New York City bar, in the evening. So I feel like it probably hurt in more ways than I could even think of. But I don't know, the people that I was able to communicate with throughout my jobs, where I was able to build relationships with people I was talking to on a daily. I feel like I still have some of those relationships, all these years later, because it meant something, and
definitely,
I was fortunate to be around great people in a lot of these scenarios. But I definitely think it had an impact on maybe my growth and just like the ability to build relationships with like upper management and things like that. That make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I see that, because I remember you even telling me sometimes, hey, this is happy hour. Can you make it? Can you come?
That's true.
And honestly, I want to say 80% of the time I couldn't.
It was a lot.
It was a lot, but I remember.
I forgot that I did that, to be honest.
I forgot about happy hours, first of all. Like, when
Yeah.
you're not at, like, a regular job, like, you kind of forget. Like, it's like, oh, happy hours. I forgot about that. Sounds kind of nice, actually, right now. Like,
might do that.
we should call some people, talk to them about having a happy hour.
It's
That's so funny. Yeah. I do think that sometimes a lot of, especially I don't know why I feel like in this New York City jobs, like, yo, happy hours were like,
Yo, it's
why do I
mandatory.
feel
It's
like
part
it
of
was
your
like
job,
constant,
yo.
right? I
Yeah.
feel like you kept.
Trust me, I would hit you up to go, but I'd probably hit you up for every 1 out of 3 that was actually spoken about. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because like there were times where I'm like, there's no way I'm going to that. Like
Yeah.
you know, just to put myself out there like that and not be comfortable. You know, it's not like I was comfortable with myself
Yeah.
with my problems, let alone telling, you know, a coworker like, "Yo, look out for me."
I get that. Yeah,
help
that
me,
makes
you
sense.
know, help me get there. Like that was the furthest thing I was gonna do. I rather, you know, have made sure I was safe. You know, especially in something that was optional. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So since you asked about if it helped or hurt my relationships at work, you know, hiding my blindness, do you think it would have helped or hurt my career if I would have disclosed what I was going through?
Like, let's say you got hired and then you told them, and only you would know how your team was. But
Yeah.
I mean, I do
Yeah.
know Natasha, who was your supervisor, which we absolutely love. Let's say you had to
She's dope. She's the best.
sit and have a one-on-one with her back then and tell her, like, look, I just want to tell you that, you know, my vision, you know, I have this condition.
The truth is, I would have felt too guilty to do that. To be
But let's
honest
say
with
you did. Let's pretend, right? Because that's the whole question.
Yeah.
It's like, would it had hurt your career if you would have came clean or not? So it's like, if you would have said something to her, maybe I think she would have been a little understanding. But I do think something would have had to change in your role, because
Yeah.
your role was literally, you know, being
I had
out
to do
at
stuff.
you know, being out at places. I want to say more than 50% of your time. Maybe not. I don't know.
It's so interesting, like even just like putting myself back in those shoes of like,
Yeah.
okay, if I was to disclose what was going on while I was already hired, this is
Yeah,
you know,
that's what
after
I'm.
being hired.
That's my, like, how I want.
Yeah.
You know,
It's-
I'm putting it. But
It's funny because it's like I just feel guilt right away. It's like damn, I would have felt bad
telling them.
telling, especially
Like you're
Natasha.
failing them or something.
Exactly, because it's like, yo, like Natasha really believed in me. She's the reason why I got hired in the
Yeah,
first place.
okay.
So in my head, it's like, damn, if I like say it was a year later or like before our first All Star, for example, if I would have came to her and be like, yo, I'm dealing with this, I would have felt like, damn, I put her in a bad position now. Because because she didn't know, so like in my
She's
head,
counting on you.
yeah, she's counting on me. Now I'm putting her in a bad situation.
Yeah.
So like I feel guilt, and I wonder how many people out there feel like this, because it's like, damn, like
Yeah.
you get a job to provide for your life,
Your family.
your family,
Yourself.
everything you got going on, and then
Yeah.
you pass that hurdle, and then you want to say something,
Mm-hmm.
but you're like, dang, I can't, because I'm gonna feel bad, I'm gonna feel guilty, or like I have to be this
Mm-hmm.
version of myself that's not the real version. You know what I mean? So
But
that's tough.
and of course, it's a risk. It's a gamble. It is. You know, if you came
Yeah.
clean, it's like, am I gonna lose my job? What's gonna happen now? Let's say, right?
It's like
because
constant
anybody
gambles.
would worry at any job,
Yeah.
and I don't think they would have fired you.
But that's
but
actually important though,
It'll
because
go through someone's mind.
I really thought I would get fired. By the way, that was another thing. I didn't know, because I was so naive to all this.
Yeah.
I thought I would just get fired. I didn't know that there was like, things in place and laws in place, because I wasn't trying to learn all this stuff. I was trying to just power through. But the reality is, at that time, I'm like 23, 24. I'm like, yo, I'm gonna get fired for this if I say something. So, but if you're out there and you're in this position where you're not sure if you should say something and you're scared to get fired, there are things to protect you. there are things to make sure you're okay.
I mean, yeah, there's definitely things in place, and even if you don't talk to your employer about it because you're unsure of what they are, I mean, you can get guidance from like any legal professional and even organizations. I think we're missing that point.
That's true.
There's so many organizations that you're just finding out about a year or two ago, right?
Yeah.
That literally help employees and employers through this.
Depending on where you are, either Lighthouse or your local commission for the blind. Because I mean, I know at least my counselor, shout out to Fanny, If I had questions like this, like if I wasn't sure what to do, I could ask her, and if she
Yeah.
doesn't have an answer, she's gonna go and find the answer.
Exactly.
You know, depending on what it is, because the network that they've built at the Commission for the Blind, especially in New Jersey, and where we at, it's like.
Yeah.
They're gonna help you. It's like having an army behind you to support you from everything. So
It's finding the right resources and coming to a place that you can live your life freely, that you can feel good going to work, right?
yeah, being yourself is
And you can be comfortable.
like just the fact that I feel like I'm myself 100% of the time now.
Yeah.
For the first time my whole life, like it's incredible. So I'm grateful for that. But real quick, I do want to shout out the No Limits family. You know what I mean? I'm trying to do this every video. I want to make sure we support the people supporting us, because it's all love. So today, I am shouting out Sylvia. I'm shouting out my friend Rachel. And I'm shouting out my brother Cam, because you guys have been so supportive. You guys always show love. You guys always give me advice and help. You're dropping comments in the video, talking to me. I definitely appreciate that. So shout out to y'all. I love y'all. And yeah, let's keep going.
What was your hardest moment at work too, by the way? When like your vision was becoming a problem, or
Let me tell you something. I know I kind of covered this a little bit, but having such an amazing dream job in the NBA and realizing that I literally am not built for it. Like, I literally felt drafted. Like, I feel like I got drafted by the league when I got hired, and to know that, like,
lottery pick.
yo, to know in my heart I wasn't built for that. Like, that was a constant, like, humbling moment, a hard thought. That was definitely the hardest moment, especially when I had to say bye because I just couldn't take it no more. Like, yo, that was like, I still feel crushed about that, yo, because I really felt like I could be there forever, like, oh man, I loved it so much. So that was hard. But I also think, like, yo, at my last job, I was working for SiriusXM, and knowing that, like, yo, it's time for the white flag to come up. I cannot do this no more. There was just too much changes happening with, like, my job, what was expected, and like how we should be doing things. Like, that was also super hard, because it was like, man, what's life gonna look like at this moment? Because all I've known for the last years was working the job to provide, and like, we had a son, our daughter was on the way.
For him to keep up with the changes
too much,
became stressful.
I felt bad too, because I feel like because I wasn't saying anything, I wasn't disclosing what was going on.
That's the thing.
It looked so bad for me, like I didn't care, but I was like, yo, damn, I missed that. Oh shoot, I missed that. Especially when you're working from home, and it definitely
it probably looked like it was.
It just I think it just looked like it was something else that it wasn't. So I would say those are my hardest moments right there.
Okay, so now I have a big question for you.
What you got?
So, what's something you wish employers understood better about someone with a disability or something that they might be dealing with?
I want to say, if I could have employers understand something, I'm thinking two things, right, that pop up in my brain.
Okay.
I think hiring us, employing us, but also like empowering us to feel comfortable. Like, you're gonna have somebody who's so locked in, like so committed to what we're doing, because man, like we know we're capable with the right tools and resources around us. Like, we know it, but to have a company or have an employer like believe in us, to empower us in that way, like, you're gonna have a rock star. You are going to have an absolute rock star. And I think that's something that maybe a lot of employers don't realize, like the commitment and the enthusiasm that I think people will feel, with that empowerment. I'm sure a lot of people feel like that.
Yeah.
But also, if we check that box, we are already showing a level of commitment that is beyond time. Like, we are being upfront and honest in a way that I feel like right away deserves a little credit, because like I said, like I've worked at least 5, 6, 7 jobs maybe, and I never checked that box once. I never said that to anybody, and just to put myself out there, it's so vulnerable. And yeah, to be honest, I felt like I knew it would, maybe hurt my chances at a role and things like that when applying. But I really truly feel like we are so much more capable than a lot of people think. We would be such great employees, and I feel like that might go over a lot of people's heads. Speaking of that, though,
Yeah.
do you have any advice for anybody looking for work, or in a career, and not sure whether they should openly disclose their, challenge or disability?
I mean, it's a hard question to ask, because I'm not trying to put anybody here out of a job or something, obviously, and like go to HR tomorrow and tell them, I don't know if you should do that. But, I think if it's affecting your mental health and you have loved ones or people around you, friends, someone you could talk to about it and get like insight to your specific situation. Maybe it's
I was just thinking that, like,
chats,
Facebook groups,
right?
man,
Facebook groups,
like a group with your condition, with your situation.
Yeah.
Like, you could ask that question and there's going to be people in there to weigh in. That's a great point.
Like, talk to someone, because, it's like, hey,
it's so big, yo.
It's a lot.
Like, talking to people is literally the key.
Oh, totally.
For everything.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you've met so much wonderful people through you accepting this in your life, and
connected me to a lot of
starting your process of acceptance.
Having mentors, like shout out to Corey McDonald at the Corderemia Research Foundation.
Yeah.
Like, what? Todd,
Definitely.
Scott, like some of these guys that I've met and had the pleasure of speaking to, and just to speak with them and see what they're saying, and about my condition, corderemia, and just in general, it's been definitely uplifting. If I could go back personally, I think I would have tried it and just seen where it took me.
You tried saying something?
Yeah, like maybe
I see.
like I think if I was open, like back at the NBA moment when I was just too scared, I couldn't take it anymore.
Then you left
Vegas. Like, I think at that moment was probably the moment to say, "Hey, Tosh, this is what's going on with me."
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel comfortable, and then seeing what happens. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that could have, not that it would have changed much, but I think at least being honest, because look, I was running away anyway. It was like, all right, if I get fired at this point, at least I'm telling the truth, So I do think we probably will know that moment if we know what to look out for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
maybe it's not going to be as bad as you think.
True.
Maybe there'll be more understanding.
It's always worse than you think.
It's always worse than you think.
It's always
with
like
anything,
that,
We sometimes think it's going to be like the worst, but
it's so true.
I don't know. Talk to someone, pray about it, do things, and hopefully, relieve that burden.
If you're looking for more ways to be happy, be at peace, and be your true self, is my hair cool? You can talk to my hair.
Yeah, I think you look good.
All right, cool.